Joining me now to dissect all the action from tonight are CityNews political affairs specialist John Stahl and Charlie Gillis of Maclean's magazine. Let's have at it. Shall we start with who impressed you the most?
I didn't think I'd be saying this at this stage of the debate, but Rob Ford, I think, is the winner, and he was as authentic.
Now, why didn't you think you'd be saying that, John?
I thought there was going to be more discussion about the crack scandal and about the behavioral piece of his life as it framed by the leadership segment. He continues to be able to sidestep this in a remarkable way. I mean, you can have your own decision about whether that should or should not be part of the your decision tonight. But in terms of just straight communication, this guy, hands down over the rest of them, speaks without notes, is open, is accessible, and as easy to understand for those who are not judging on the behavioral, embarrassing, videos on the drinking after hours and the not showing up. He can tramp back over anybody who throws anything at him like none of the others.
Charlie, before we get to you, let's go downstairs because we're going to start the scrum and hear from the candidates down there.
I can't wait for another, I think, 106 debates. We had 107 last time. I'm looking forward to the debate tomorrow night.
Mr. Mayor, why do you think? They hammered away on you on the question of saving the money. They say you haven't saved $1 billion, that it's lies.
It's Rob Rossini and Joe Penichetti. They're the ones that are giving me these numbers. So if they're saying I'm lying, so you're calling our chief financial officer and our CEO of the City of Toronto liars. So these aren't my numbers. You know that. Everybody, the media knows that. You've seen it in the documents. And during the budget meetings this year, they came out and said, yes, your administration has saved $1 billion. So they're not calling me a liar. They're calling those guys a liar.
There's also the argument with the $1 billion in the subway. It's a wash. The opponents are so reticent. What about that? They say it's a wash with $1 billion from the subway.
It's all right. You know what? It's paid for. I said I was going to build the subway. We are building it. They're talking about building it. I'm not building LRTs. You didn't see me squander $120 million up on St. Clair when it was supposed to only be $40 million. I have a proven track record of success in watching the taxpayers' money. And it speaks for itself. Let the people decide on October 27th. I encourage people to come to my kickoff on April 17th at the Toronto Congress Center, 650 Dixon Road at 6:30.
How can you work with City Council next time around, Mayor Ford? How can you work with City Council?
New councillors. I guarantee 10 of those councillors are gone. Well, a few are retiring, and some are going to go down in defeat. And you know what? We'll see. They said the exact same thing 4 years ago. I almost remember this conversation. You can't get anything through. We've had this discussion already. We're going to continue.
Haven't had anything done, though, really, in the last few years.
Okay, that's good. Okay, thank you.
It is an ongoing message over and over and over again. John Stahl impressed with Mayor Rob Ford, and Charlie, you're shaking your head a lot while John was talking about how impressed he was.
Yeah, well, John made a point that really bears repeating here, and that is that this was a political debate where any one of those competitors could have pointed a finger at the incumbent and said, you used crack. You lied about using crack.
We were waiting for it, weren't we? We were waiting for the figure. We were waiting for the word crack. Cynthia Mulligan was the only one who mentioned it to the mayor.
Yeah, we had to wait for Cynthia to say it, and I think that's because the other candidates believe that the bulk of voters out there right now have made up their minds that Rob Ford is going to be replaced. And I think that might be a miscalculation based on what we saw here today, because when he's on top of his files, when he's able to rattle off the names of the transit lines that are getting investment, when he's able to tick off the various things he's done to save taxpayer dollars, he looks like he's on top of his files, and I think the voters respond to that. Right. We saw that in our electronic polling.
We're going back downstairs to listen to Olivia Chow.
His statements are very far from the truth, and he kept talking, and I've said very clearly that he's certainly not a role model for my grandchildren, and we all know what that means. It means his failings. But it's not just about his personal record. It's about his policies, his failed policies, the $1 billion wasted for his transit plan. And that's a 30 years. It's Ford's plan of wasting $1 billion of his transit plan, it means 30 years of tax increases. And he's also supporting the island airport expansion that would cost another $100 to $300 million. So at the end of the day, my property tax record is very clear. That in the 4 or 5 years I was with Mel Lastman Budget Committee, we delivered a property tax increase of 1.8%, which is exactly the same of Mr. Ford's last 4 years record. and I will continue to make sure the property tax is in line with inflation.
But Mayor Ford made that comment that...
All right, let's talk about Olivia Chow. Charlie, you said you were impressed with the way she sort of came out, her body language. We know her as quiet, maybe meek sometimes, but she actually came out swinging.
Well, I thought she was best when she was setting herself up as a defender of the city, when she was expressing her disappointment and saying, you know, that Rob Ford has really let the city down. I mean, Olivia Chow is one of those old school politicians in a sense that she, you know, does that old-fashioned message tracking where ask her if the sky is blue and she responds with one of her talking points. She was doing a bit less of that tonight, and I think that's why, you know, I mean, it looked to me like she came in a solid second.
Yeah, we're going to roll a clip too. Let's roll the Chow embarrassment clip here, if we've got that, and then John, we'll get your thoughts on what you thought of Olivia Chow and her performance.
You can't just let private sector run the...
All right, John, let's go with your impression of Olivia.
No, I think she had a very strong performance. Again, was the only one who was really going after Mayor Ford right out of the gate. You know, calling him a disappointment and saying he didn't deserve to be mayor. You've got to go. Your gravy train has become a train wreck, without mentioning the crack scandal in of itself.
Let's just have a listen. They've got it now.
You know, we've had it with the scandals and the lack of the truth. It's time to go because, you know, you are embarrassing our city.
And just tee up the circus tent as well, too. We'll go there as well. What were you saying, John?
I was going to say that's where when performers actually reflect back to viewers and people in the audience what they're thinking. That's when it works, and that's when they connect. And I think Olivia connected there because a lot of people would be thinking the same thing. You've got to go. You don't belong to be there. You don't belong there, without using the crack scandal. Yet, his performance can reflect back, as he did so smoothly. Only guy in the entire group that did not open the debate using a note. Right off the top of his head.
Right.
Now, you can take issue with his numbers, you can take issue with his agenda, and whether or not he's lying about it. I don't think any one of us here have the figures to be able to fact check.
She didn't use, hang on, she didn't use the crack word, she did use circus tent. That was pretty good. Listen.
It's time to take down the circus tent at City Hall. Rob Ford has made Toronto an international embarrassment. It's time for change.
Charlie Gillis, did she need this kind of performance?
Yeah, I think she needed more of this kind of performance. You know, and one of the things that really struck me in this debate was how good Ford is at crashing through the noise, especially in those free-for-alls. His is the voice that ends up getting heard, and I think you had mentioned during one of the breaks that he does it by having very sort of clipped phrases and responses, and the message cuts through, and you know, I mean, it's very hard to counter.
And I think Olivia needed this kind of performance to distinguish herself from John Tory, because for those who are not Ford, it's one of those two. In terms of, you know, who might be the next one at City Hall. And I don't think John Tory went after Ford as strong as he could have.
Oh, why? Why did he not? Why would nobody mention the word crack? I mean, that's an easy target, is it not?
My personal view, I think John Tory's too nice. I mean, we know him, and those of us who have worked with him or covered him in politics.
This is not the place to be too nice, though, is it?
Well, his campaign team probably had a debate about whether or not they should do this or not do this, but I can clearly see Warren Kinsella's coaching of Olivia Chow prior to this debate. Making sure that some of those issues that are on people's mind on the behavior side are brought forward.
Right. Charlie, John Tory.
Yeah, you know, I really don't think that this was his best performance. He's probably the most polished of the politicians who are standing up there today. But again, I mean, I think he got lost in some of the debates about transit and funding, and really, Rob Ford ran roughshod over him, and you know. You
were impressed by the way Rob Ford was doing that.
Yeah, it felt almost like I'm not going to say a fatal blow. We're so early in the phase here right now when he said that he had, you know, that he'd had his chance, that he had run provincially and fallen flat. That's a real stab at John Tory, and that one's got to hurt.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go back downstairs and listen in on John Tory.
I believe the man has disrespected his office, and I think he's done that over and over again. And I think even more important in a way is the fact that he has lost the ability to get things done at the City Hall, working with the other councillors, working with the other governments. Nobody will deal with this man anymore. So if we want to get transit built, keep taxes low and so on, we have to replace the mayor, and I think I'm the person that can get those results.
He just said that come October there will be 44 new councillors that he'll be able to work with. It will be, you know, largely the same councillors. What does that mean?
Well, I would say that if you look at any election in the history of this city, that is, you know, fanciful thinking. thinking on the mayor's part. He's trying to cover up again for the fact that he can't work with these councillors. That he was the one that said that all but 5 were people he thought should be on his enemies list and should be defeated. I mean, what kind of a prescription is that for getting things done in the city when we all know history says a good number of those will be re-elected? So
Olivia Chow tried to paint you as a conservative. How do you separate yourself from Mayor Rob Ford then?
I'm a progressive conservative. So I am a conservative when it comes to the money. I'm a fiscal conservative, but I'm also somebody with a big social conscience. I think I've demonstrated that over and over again. And so, look, I think as well, people will know in me they have a mayor that can get along and work with others, the councillors, the other governments, and a mayor they can be proud of. And I think that's very important for this city again.
When do you plan to release your campaign? You're talking about this.
I'm sorry.
With the funding for the subways, when do you plan to release your plank on that?
Well, I can tell you what we're going to do is we're going to take care to make sure it's not something that's half-baked. I mean, Mr. Ford has no answer as to how he's going to pay for his transit. Ms. Stintz has an answer that changes from week to week and is going to deny the city a dividend stream that comes from hydro now without explaining what she's going to do to make up for that. So we'll think it through. We know that there's an obligation. I understand that and I embrace that, an obligation to spell out how we're going to pay for it, and I know that you're eager to have it. So we'll take all that into account.
Who exactly is your biggest competition?
Crack cocaine
and why?
And then lied about it for months. Why didn't you mention that during the debate?
You know, I think that people are very familiar with all of those details. They don't need me to take up time in the debate. But I think if you just a minute, if you could let me just answer the question you asked. If I say he disrespected his office through his behavior and frankly through the way he's conducted himself in terms of trying to get things done at City Hall, which he can't do anymore, then that sums it up, I think. And I don't need to repeat all the gory details for everybody out there to hear because they know it very well.
Last question.
I think the bigger point here is that the mayor we've asked him questions about it a million times and he ducks it, dodges it, walking away. You got him in a platform here where he couldn't really run, and following online on Twitter, a lot of people are disappointed that those questions weren't pointed at him in a point-blank manner where he couldn't run.
Well, he was asked tonight, and I guess, you know, what I think is this. I have great confidence in the voters. I have great confidence in the voters, and I think when they watch his failure to answer your questions day after day, when they watch the behavior that doesn't seem to get any better, and most importantly, when they see he has run out of gas when it comes to working with anybody, city councillors, other governments, people won't even have their picture taken with him, they will know it's time to replace the mayor, and I think they will then choose me because they know that I'm going to be a mayor they can be proud of and one who's going to take the city not left, not right, but forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Charlie, you like this, you called it statesmanship with John Tory. You like that tonight.
Yeah, and I think that that's his brand, and he's done a very good job setting himself up, you know, that way. But I mean, just listening to him now saying, you know, that he doesn't want to repeat the gory details. You know, I mean, if I'm his handlers, I'm saying now, for the love of God, start repeating the gory details because right now you're giving the air over to Rob Ford.
That's his ammunition. At least it should be.
And Ford's able to frame it by saying, look, it's my personal life, and then I have this established track record.